Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Monday, September 12th. This is Gina McGuire. Over the next couple of days, we'll see a strong cold front move from north to south through the Great Basin, and this will create some very gusty winds continuing today and tomorrow with low relative humidity and in areas of critical fuels, especially over parts of Utah, southern Nevada, into the Sierra Front, where wind gusts of 45 miles per hour or higher are expected. We'll also see a significant cooling trend across the Great Basin with temperatures dropping well below normal and also some wet weather. Over the last 24 hours, we've seen some scattered thunderstorms over the central portion of Utah into eastern Nevada and southern areas of the Sierra Front with only light amounts of precipitation. As far as Great Basin fire activity, we've seen light initial attack across the Great Basin, and we have seen a new large fire over the central portion of Utah that increased in size yesterday due to the winds. Over the last 1 to 4 weeks, we've seen generally precipitation focused in the northern portion of the Great Basin over the last 7 days, and in some areas this precipitation was above normal. However, dry conditions persisted further south, and even over the last month we've seen very dry conditions over much of Nevada and into northern Utah, with really the bulk of the precipitation focused over far southern and northern areas. However, even this precipitation is below normal for what we would normally see over the last month. How this relates to our fuel conditions: ERCs did decrease in recent weeks due to some wet and cooler weather, however are still above the 80th percentile in some areas of the northern half of Utah, Nevada, and up into Idaho and Wyoming, and even some areas still above the 97th percentile. Even in the far south, where fuel conditions have been moderated in recent weeks due to wetter weather, we have seen some drying recently. The water vapor satellite loop from this morning shows the strong cold front now dropping into the northern areas of the Great Basin, and it will push further south with low pressure developing in western areas and tracking slowly eastward, which will be the focus of our wet weather and much cooler temperatures. In the meantime, out ahead of the front, we will continue to see those strong winds develop over the next 2 days over the southern half of the Great Basin. Now looking at our fire potential for today, and we do have increased fire potential due to these windy and drier conditions over southern areas of the Great Basin today, with the fuels moderating still further north due to the cooler weather moving in. Looking at our weather conditions today, we will see showers and thunderstorms develop over parts of Nevada into the northern half of the Great Basin, along with cooler weather. And again, you can see the image on the right with these wind gusts. The strongest wind gust today will be over the southern half of Utah into southern Nevada and the Sierra Front, where wind gusts as high as 40 miles per hour or more will occur. Also looking at these winds side by side with the expected low relative humidity today, and you can see generally humidity in the teens over much of Utah into the southern half of Nevada. Looking at conditions tomorrow, as this front drops further south with low pressure developing, moisture will be increasing over the northern half of the Great Basin. However, we'll still have those stronger winds and dry conditions to deal with over much of Utah into southern Nevada. Looking at these winds side by side again with weather on Tuesday, and you can see the increasing chances for showers and thunderstorms over much of the Great Basin, with the heaviest areas of wetting rains looking to be over central and northern Nevada. Again, the winds on the right show the increase in strength as we move into Tuesday, with gusts above 50 miles per hour likely over much of the southern half of Utah into eastern and southern Nevada. Looking at the relative humidity on Tuesday, you can see over these areas of western Utah into southern and eastern Nevada still very dry conditions. The image on the right is the temperature, the maximum temperature expected on Tuesday as this front moves through, and you can see highs dropping into the 60s and 70s over the northern half of the Great Basin. As we move into Wednesday, this area of low pressure and cold front slowly track to the east with continued moisture over the northern half of the area. However, as you can see with those cooler temperatures and moisture just from the last day or two, we'll continue to see fuel conditions decreasing, with also fire potential decreasing over the northern half of the area. On Wednesday, the best chances for showers and thunderstorms will be over the northern half of the area, and you can see with the image on the right, the wind gusts will be decreasing. We'll still see some breezy winds over the eastern half of Utah up into parts of northern Nevada and to Idaho, but again, these wind speeds will be much weaker than what we'll see on Monday and Tuesday. The overall expected amount of precipitation is shown here in this image, with many areas over the northern half of Nevada into southern Idaho and Wyoming seeing over a half inch or even over an inch of total precipitation. Precipitation is much lighter across Utah, but some areas will see some wetting rains. The only areas that may remain dry is far southern Nevada into the Arizona Strip and far southwest Utah and also northwest Nevada. Now looking at the extended outlook from Thursday through the weekend, this area of low pressure is now tracking off to the east, with drier and warmer weather returning to the Great Basin as high pressure builds off the west coast. Our fuels will still remain moderated across the area due to the wet and cool weather that will move through the next couple of days. As we move towards later in the week and the weekend, again this ridge strengthens and moves eastward. Therefore, our temperatures will be increasing again, with dry conditions to most areas of the Great Basin. Even as we go through the weekend, this is when the ridge moves overhead, so we will see those dry conditions continuing with warmer temperatures, and we are seeing some drying again across the Great Basin, so ERCs will start to come up again, but still remain in the moderate category. As we move into Sunday, these dry conditions will continue, but we may see some moisture returning to parts of southern and eastern Utah for a return of some showers and thunderstorms. Looking at the precipitation over the next 7 days, much of the precipitation on this map will be accumulated in the next 3 days across the Great Basin, but we may see again a few showers develop later in the weekend over parts of eastern Utah. Now looking a little further ahead towards the third week in September, these drier and warmer conditions will likely continue in many areas through the end of the month. That concludes our briefing for today. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. Thank you for listening.